Hello, everyone out there in podcast world. Hope you're having a wonderful day. You are listening to or watching the Service Business Mastery podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Tersh Blisset, sitting virtually next to my co-host, Joshua Crouch. Today, we're talking to some guys from MeasureQuick. If you are in the HVAC world and you're not familiar with MeasureQuick, you definitely want to pay attention to this episode and download the app. We use it on a daily basis within our business, and the reporting and everything. It's really great because I can take a very junior tech and kind of even the playing field with having him or her using MeasureQuick and getting a lot of information and data that we would not normally have because the technician just wouldn't have any idea that they needed to pull that information for the client.
Well, it's a lot easier now because it's digitized, right? Like it really helps. Plus, the app helps with understanding if those are good metrics or bad metrics.
Yeah.
Which definitely helps, especially as we always talk about issues with technicians in the field and finding people and, having to train them the old way with gauges and all the way that you used to have to know how to do this stuff. This definitely can speed up the learning curve.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it's great to be able to use it when you're in the office and help the guys and gals out in the field. So we're not going to talk too much about it before the intro, before we actually get started. But I do want to say, first off, give a huge shout out to those who make this podcast possible, Upfrog. And I actually was just doing a blog post for Upfrog last night. And it just reminds me about all the things that they do, and re-engagement with clientele is the biggest thing. One of the big things that I was writing about in that article, but they do a ton and they make this podcast possible. Josh, you want to talk a little bit about Sera?
Yeah. Sera. So obviously it's different because we do these lives and then we're always recording and this stuff gets put out later, but we're going to get Billy back on here soon, probably early September. And it's got a lot of updates on some things and things that have been going on. He's going to give us an update on Billy Go and how their summer was, which is it's always interesting because obviously there's been some trends and some talk about different things, but we're very excited to get him back on and talk about what those things look like. So look forward to that as far as the future episode goes. Yeah,
we use Sera now, and the transition it's different from what we were using before, and so we're having to learn some certain things that
you have to unlearn what you learned previously. That's with any CRM, and honestly, CRM is a whole different discussion and topic where you could really dive down a rabbit hole. But you got to use the CRM the way it's designed to be used. My problem with CRMs in today's world is everybody uses it differently. We see clients, I talk to all of them, they all use different CRMs differently, and it's like no wonder nobody knows how to keep track of their KPIs and stuff like that because it's all different. If you use CRMs the way it's designed to be used, they work out great.
Mm-hmm. Next on our board here is Emerson, but it's actually Copeland Compressors. We got to update that logo. They recently split apart the two companies, and Copeland does a ton with training and a lot with helping out the contractor, especially when it comes to the compressors and anything Copeland related. But yet we have an episode coming up pretty shortly with the team from Copeland as well. So that they're a great group of people. CompanyCam, I use CompanyCam myself. We actually have it automated, so every time a service call is booked with Sera, it automatically triggers a project in CompanyCam. So it collects that data, collects that metadata, and we're able to use that on the back end for our website.
Yeah, a whole bunch of things, right? Because you can do all kinds of stuff with projects and stuff, and before and afters. Just even internal communication. They have like their own internal like Slack type thing where you can communicate, know exactly where something is. So like service handing it over to install or sales handing to install, you can make notes on that project. So that way your internal communication is improved and install team doesn't forget what the sales team told the customer. So, which can be sometimes a big pain.
Absolutely. Yeah. You get out on a job site and you're like, oh, I forgot about all this other stuff.
Yep, absolutely.
Cool. Well, let's get started with the show. I'm super excited to have Brian and Ben come on the show today. So let's get started.
Are you looking for valuable business advice to reach that 7-figure revenue mark? Do you want actionable tips to properly navigate through every business challenge you encounter along the way? Let Tersh Blisset and Josh Crouch be your guide in getting you to the top here at Service Business Mastery. Tune in as they sit down with world-renowned authors in business, leadership, and personal growth who share valuable insights about management, marketing, pricing, human resources, and so much more. Let their nuggets of wisdom gold guide you in owning a thriving, profitable, and ever-growing business. Here are your hosts, Tersh and Josh.
Hey
What's
guys,
up,
welcome
guys?
to the show.
Hey,
Hello.
How are y'all?
awesome.
Fantastic.
So I've known Ben and Brian both for many years now. Brian's actually been here, one of the few people who have come out here to the ranch, and hung out with me for a while. And it feels like that's been a long time ago.
Oh yeah.
But yeah. So for those who don't know who you are, Brian and Ben, can y'all do a quick introduction of yourselves?
Sure. I'll start. Been in the industry almost 30 years now. Most recently tied to IoT software. MeasureQuick focuses on customer success and onboarding and making sure that it's easy to adopt, and it's really the future that we need to be on course for. So I've worked a lot of different places. You can find me on LinkedIn. It's a mile long, but very passionate about the home services side of the business and how it all ties to a future of this scary word called technology.
Right.
It's not as scary as it should be or could be, but yeah, that's a little bit about me, Ben.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. So my name is Ben Reed. Don't quite have the same tenure. I've only been in the HVAC, residential HVAC business or industry for about 6 years. Before that, my background is in telecommunications engineering and product management, product development. Spent a lot of time building IoT products for various different companies over the years, and most recently at Haven IQ, helping out with their sort of leading their product team, creating content for them, partnerships, and just, I guess, working on product strategy. And one of the things that's keeping me in this industry was a realization that I had when I was there is that most homeowners can't solve IQ problems by themselves. They need an HVAC expert. I have a lot of family members that are affected by IQ, or rather they have conditions that are exacerbated by air pollutants. So it's near and dear to my heart. And then I discovered that most HVAC experts can't solve IQ problems, and that a lot of HVAC contractors can't even solve HVAC problems. So the path that I went on trying to just solve this sort of monitoring and automation thing on the IQ side took me kind of down the road where now I'm working with Jim Bergman at MeasureQuick, where I'm really focused on trying to help with shifting the paradigm of the industry to help make better practices a lot more commonplace right now. So that's me.
And if you're one of those contractors that can't fix those problems, and you just want to get triggered about something, we'll give you Ben's email. We'll put it in the show notes so you can reach out to him and send your angry thoughts his way.
You can have a
Right.
chat.
But it's true.
All years.
It's true. There's so many, especially with airflow. Airflow is just like the biggest problem that doesn't get enough attention. We fix it with boxes. We fix it with like Band-Aid solutions.
Mhm.
We don't actually dig into like what is the problem and use tools like MeasureQuick, and I'm sure we'll get into the other one that you guys are going to talk about today. But we don't. The technology is there to monitor, but what do you guys think are the biggest reasons for hesitation to adopt some of this technology and actually start using it to solve the problems that contractors and homeowners face?
You want me to take that one first? From being in this industry a long time, it's hard not to be cynical. And I can tell you from the first time I saw a Rheem air conditioner in 1994, and how it continued to look the same until about 5 years ago.
Right.
What that clearly shows is we're very comfortable in our industry to do things the way they've always been done, but expect different results, right? So what do we know that is? It's insanity.
Right.
But the problem, that I saw in IoT, and I see it every day still, even with smart thermostats, is, nobody quite understands why. Like there's this common theme of why should I care? Whether I'm a technician, why should I care? Why should the homeowner care? Why should the CSR care? Why should the owner care? The why is different for everyone, but there's a common theme to row everyone in the same direction. At the end of the day, and Tersh, you know this 100%, if we're not taking care of the customer, the homeowner, nothing happens.
Mm-hmm.
Make them happy. Because if that phone doesn't ring, nothing happens. Now, so would we say technology is an important part of that? I guess maybe. I'll give you an example of something that I experienced recently with technology. I got my car inspected at the Volkswagen dealership. And while I was waiting on my car to be done, I had gotten a text with a video walk around of my car on the lift, and the technician, in his words, telling me his findings. The nail in my tire, the condition of my brakes, the condition of everything else he observed. And I haven't even been presented a bill yet. So what's that telling me? It's telling me, okay, well, there's transparency. So my trust just went through the roof, right? And slowly my wallet is opening because I had a delightful experience. And, we take a lot of, we compare a lot to the automotive industry in our HVAC industry because there's a lot of common, themes.
Right.
Trust. We're not the most trusted bunch in this in this world of services, and neither are mechanics. So when you add this layer of transparency through technology, which it's mind blowing that we can do this, it changes the experience between the business and the customer. And so, like when you think of things like MeasureQuick, providing transparency of, are you sure you fixed it? Yes. Here's the proof.
And it's third party proof.
Yes. Yeah. Like when I see contractors still today complaining about callbacks on new installs, knowing that it can be solved with a simple little app and a little bit of learning curve, they'd rather eat 10 to 20% of profit to do something because that's just the way they've always done it. And it's just an expected part of the business. You remember warranty reserve used to be the thing, your install price. And then the minute things got competitive, that went away.
Right.
But the warranty calls didn't.
Exactly. So that's the thing.
There's no reserve for it anymore.
So let me ask you this: has MeasureQuick figured out a way to test the drain lines on a change out?
By test? Like you mean like have a probe for drain lines? Or
man, that's a callback that just ruins my day. Hey, we just installed a system and we got a.
Are you saying your text didn't blow the drain line out? They didn't flush it out?
Right.
They reused the old. Oh, that's.
Oh, the glue.
Forgot about that.
Yeah, no, MeasureQuick can't monitor every single human behavior. We're doing our best, but not quite there yet.
Okay, let me know when that's the case.
But when you think about that, like, how do we find a way to better serve a customer? It is really, the tools are there, and they've been there for a while. And I've seen many contractors have, they're finally digitizing. You guys were mentioning, we're talking about CRM, field service management. They think that's the big mountain you have to climb. Well, no, it's not done yet. Like there's more to do. And those getting involved in an FSM today, they're already 10 years behind.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And so what else are we behind on when it comes to leveraging technology, the scary word, but it all comes down to change management. Tersh, you said it in the very beginning. Sera's different than Service Titan was.
Mm-hmm.
You have to learn the workflows. Josh, you were talking about workflows. Like that workflow with MeasureQuick it's a workflow, right? So when there's you have to succumb or give up to the workflow because it's designed for a reason to work the most efficient way possible. And efficiency is the only gains we can get as a business today in home services. Efficiency is where you win. Tersh, you run your business completely on efficiency. I know you do.
Mm-hmm.
And you would never think of doing it any other way.
Mm-mm.
Now it's more painful.
Yes, it can be at times.
Than doing it beer can cold and
Mm-hmm.
traditional ways of running an HVAC business. But you've got a lot on your plate. There's a lot of things you want to achieve and accomplish, and I see you as a poster child for leveraging technology and the efficiencies that come from it. And
well,
you'd think
with that being
easy
said,
thing. Go ahead.
with that being said, what do you tell technicians who feel like they are doing double entry by using something like MeasureQuick? Because there are times where you're putting this information into your FSM, and then you're going to go over to MeasureQuick, and it's going to say, okay, what's this homeowner's information, or what the model and serial number on this unit over here. And I know now, like, you can scan it as long as it's visible, as long as it's not an old carrier that's got everything's completely faded off of it. But what do you say to technicians who, like, that's their gripe to not using MeasureQuick?
I mean, I think it's with some of the integrations we're working on with the different platforms that obstacle will go away. But I think it becomes, it's not really about the double entry. It's about the customer experience. We're looking too short-sighted at the tactical sometimes, where it's like, okay, I get it, right? Or screenshots.
Does a technician themselves, like, what happens if the company doesn't enforce sharing the reports with the homeowner? I mean, I guess I'm saying, is there a situation where the technician does different than the business and is more proactive towards using MeasureQuick and sharing the reports? Have you seen that before, or is it just very reactive? Okay.
No, it's the adopting, because MeasureQuick is also a complex piece of software. Yeah. So adopting it, we've seen like a wide spectrum of how it gets implemented inside of an organization. There's a huge amount of technicians that they use it to, I guess, give themselves like almost superhuman powers. But being able to get their company on board with it has been very kind of challenging for them, because there's a mismatch in, like, I guess, their skills of presentation or negotiation, and also the I guess the perspective of the business owner or the decision makers. And so we've found, I've seen a lot of tickets of techs and even managers complaining that it's like, well, I love MeasureQuick, but it's very difficult. Like, I haven't been able to convince the owner that this is something that's worth investing in. And so to that point, we basically say, like, let us be part of that conversation. But you started off the conversation talking about some of the problems with the industry, the airflow. Why is it that we still have so many problems with that? I actually did a deep dive. I did a couple months of research and released a YouTube video kind of like outlining my perspective of like all of the things that kind of connect the dots together for, having such a troubled market. And there's just so many misaligned, I guess, incentives and perspectives that it all needs to be not merged together, but there's a lot of work that needs to happen as an industry so that we don't have friction at every step of the way. The fact that, like, technicians are fighting their employers for like some techs aren't fighting their employers because their employers won't accept best practices. because it's maybe not worth their time. But sometimes it's flipped where the employer wants best practices, but the techs, they worry about something else. So, and then to even bring that further, like homeowners, their expectations are so misaligned to a lot of HVAC companies. Like they just want air to come out of the vent. And so that is so like opposed to doing better HVAC, of being able to like make sure that the system is functioning as it should, to be properly commissioned, because there's no incentive for an HVAC contractor to be able to go the extra mile to invest in something like MeasureQuick. It's just being like, air comes out, job done, let's go. That's what so many companies that we ran into still suffer from. And like, that's why airflow isn't actually like taught or really a big deal. And like a lot of other topics that are related to best practices don't ever get the attention that they deserve because they're not valued. Like homeowners care way more about their second or third car than they do in investing in a $40,000 HVAC system upgrade. So like the share of wallet for homeowners is already completely eaten up. And most HVAC replacements are done via emergencies. So like that's
so
one of
out
the
of
big
out of
reasons.
sight, out of mind. So so people don't really value it until it breaks.
Is it? I mean, where do you guys think that stems from? Do you think it stems from like a lot of people run these maintenance checks and are not really doing much with the airflow side? So it's like, yeah, things work, and here's your quick little report, or the cheap tune-ups, which are really just inspections with someone that can come out and offer upgraded options and stuff like that. Do you think it stems from that? Is it a lack of education in the industry, or lack of education to their homeowners? Where do you think some of that stems from?
Yes.
All of it? That was option D.
Like even some like maintenance, like in some of our research with homeowners, some homeowners are actually perfectly fine with a placebo maintenance visit. Like they just want the peace of mind of you showing up.
So it's
And
like checking the
nothing
box.
needs to happen. Like they just need to walk in, like bang on the ductwork a couple times, and then be like, okay, you're good until the fall. So
it's like like those quick physicals where they like tap on your knee, they look in your ear, and it's like, oh, you're good.
They went through the
motions.
motions.
We all know that internally you could have like cancer started, or you could have like something bad that's about to happen, but the physical week. And the only reason I thought about this, my daughter just started 7th grade. It's the first year she had to get a physical for sports. And it was like this quick, I sat in there with her and it was like the quickest visit ever. I'm like, this doesn't tell you anything about her health. It literally is just like, yep, tap, look in the ear. She does a couple movements and it's like, yep, you're good. Go ahead and wrestle.
Related to this, Jim, like at the beginning of the year, we're really pushing like, okay, we can go down to one maintenance visit per year. That is absolutely possible with MeasureQuick. We got pushback from a lot of companies saying that, no, our homeowners want to, because they have been acclimatized. They have been trained into believing that 2 is what is like, that is basically the industry standard. And I'm not being taken care of unless I have 2. So like the technology, like whether it's smart AC or other monitoring technology, or even the like MeasureQuick reports, some homeowners are just literally have these bad habits from a market that's been trained for decades through a placebo activity.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're transitioning to 1 visit per year unless they need 2 visits. And it's one of those things where it's worded up to 2 visits a year whenever you sell a maintenance agreement. And it's because if you need a second maintenance agreement or maintenance visit, then we'll come out there and perform a second maintenance visit. Now, if your system's 2 years old, like why? If it's working properly. Now, if you have issues, that's a different subject. But actually, we're moving into, when we're recording this in August, end of August, we're moving towards the maintenance season ish. So anybody that's watching this live, you actually have an article that you wrote recently about maintenance full stack and the full stack HVAC. Can you kind of go into that? What is that? Like a quick transition there into that, but and we'll share this link also with anybody that's watching this or checking out later.
If you're watching it on social or live, the link is in the comments, but we'll share it with the actual the post that goes out live.
Yeah. So quick bit of background is like even when I was at Haven, we were really fixated on trying to create value by attaching Haven to maintenance contracts. And so now with MeasureQuick, we're partnering with Smart AC, and it's all about making the maintenance contracts make sense. It's all about making them have a much higher value, much higher sort of satisfaction from your customers, getting to the point where you can do preventative or kind of predictive maintenance, where like all the important failures that could happen, like, a clogged drain pan or a frozen coil or no heat, all those things can actually be detected before the homeowner even knows that it happens. And then it provides the intelligence to the HVAC company, and the HVAC company can make a decision as to what they want to do with that. If they want to prioritize a low sort of impact fault or a high impact fault, depending on how busy they are. Now, I did a deep dive into kind of trying to figure out why the maintenance side is so broken, and it has to do with a lot of, at least the research showed that there are just a lot of assumptions. There are a lot of habits. Like, this industry is just so full of these old habits that just were adopted and they're just carried forward and not questioned. And so being like, oh, all I need is like a couple hundred maintenance agreements, and then that's like, I heard this all the time at Haven, like where, I'm just going to beg myself a couple hundred maintenance agreements, and then that's going to up the valuation of my company, and then I can sell it. And that's changing. That reality is changing. So that's what the first article is about. But the second article is what we find really interesting. So that's all about the technology side, the perils of technology implementation, and how to be successful when you're implementing kind of the technology required to quantify your business, to understand whether or not your maintenance program and pretty much anything else in your business is making money, or if it's losing money. If you only have a couple of digital tools that are implemented without a full stack strategy, then you're leaving a lot of value on the table. That's the premise of that article. So, Brian, I don't know if you had a...
No, I mean, you hit it on the head. It's really coming down to some bigger strides need to happen. We feel that full stack is a very clean way to address it or get an understanding of how all the dots are connected. I mentioned earlier, like, yeah, you can put an FSM in place, but you're not done, right? There's more to do. You're talking about CompanyCam. Like, there's a lot of different, if you look at the FSM as let's say the nucleus, everything hub and spokes out to the other tools that feed that, right? So with a lot of noise on how many different, types of software out there and platforms, the one thing we mentioned earlier is workflows. It's different. If you now, like, when I ran home service business, I had 20 techs doing maintenance. They all did it 20 different ways.
Right.
So I couldn't get standardization there that brought any value to homeowners. So when it came time for renewals, they would churn. I had no way to save them, right? So standardization is probably more important now, especially with private equity being so hungry, that they're looking, and Ben has stated this before, they are looking for that type of company that's adopting things like full stack, because there's value there. It's very clear. The entanglement with customers, customer stickiness, we all talk about it, but what are we actually doing about it?
Well, and customers love the technology. Back to your automotive story. I feel like my wife said something similar where they sent this report, and it was just like, it was the coolest thing ever when you get something like that. And you're like, oh shit, this is like nobody else has ever done this. And it almost makes you want to have that experience again, where I know based on these factors, things are good or things are not good. The old, go tap on the ductwork, go take a visual inspection, maybe spray it out with a hose. And that's like, hey, my maintenance inspection's done. You're good. And then they have a breakdown 2 weeks later because the capacitor was out of range and now it's hot. And it just, there's so many things that could happen. I love how you guys laid this out. So if you guys are listening to this, check out the link that we have, because they put down some different options for all of these, what they consider full stack HVAC and what that looks like. It goes into things like design software for load calcs. It goes into other things as far as some other connected tools that can help you guys digitize and really put together some stuff. Now, obviously, when you do this stuff and you do the research for your company, the more connected all of these things can be, the better. So like Zapier connections, native integrations, where it will take the data from MeasureQuick and put it right into your thing, so you don't have to do the double entry. Or if a job is scheduled, it automatically goes into MeasureQuick, so that we don't have to enter the person's name, address, phone number, email. You know, those types of things can really save you guys some time, but I think it's worth looking into, and then obviously doing your research on these tools. If you have no idea what some of these are, start looking, start familiarizing yourself with what is out there, because there's a lot out there to help you.
And that was when I kind of put together the full stack HVAC concept, is I've had a lot of background managing software teams and looking at the architecture of what makes a software program work. So like if you have something like Facebook, there are thousands of little pieces that kind of all work together to be able to make that size of application work. But in the software world, there are kind of a couple basic layers. Like, you have your app, you have your front end, you have your middleware, you have your database layer, and kind of together those different layers. That's why it's called like full stack. If you're a developer and you can operate in all of those different areas, you're a full stack developer. That's a very common term in the software engineering world. And so we stole that concept, and we basically, yes, we have identified it. The categorization of these different kind of pieces of software, I find, is really important, because then it helps you see what kind of holes that you have in your business. Where if you've implemented your FSM, like your Service Titan or Sera, whatever it is, that's great. But that's not ensuring that that your techs are actually measuring and following procedures exactly correctly while they're out in the field. There's holes in the stack for most companies out there where they might have implemented one or two elements, but they're missing so much efficiency because they aren't solving the problems in each layer of the stack. And then you get multiplied efficiency once they all can connect together. So like MeasureQuick's a great example, how we kind of connect both down and up the stack with all the Bluetooth tools. We connect to Smart AC, we connect to Service Titan, we connect to House Call Pro. There's additional CRMs that we're going to be connecting with in the future, even up into the design and the sales stuff. We're considering that kind of connection through the entire stack, because if you could frictionlessly just kind of travel through this as a business, where you no longer have to worry about whether or not your techs are designing things, if they're selling things incorrectly, just everything is transparent to you as a business owner, because you have invested the time into doing your risk mitigation and efficiency and optimization in each layer of the stack.
Okay. So I have a couple questions here, and we could even use this as a little soundbite, because what you mentioned. You've sent me several articles, several LinkedIn posts, and everything. I'm going to read part of one of the articles here on the first article, and then transition into my second question. But you mentioned here in the HVAC industry, 60 to 70% of sales come from existing customers, and increasing customer retention rate by 5% can boost profitability by 25 to 95%, which is a ton. Furthermore, some studies have shown that a successful maintenance contract program can account for 50% or more of an HVAC company's annual revenue, making the business more attractive for investment or acquisition, which leads me into my second part of my question. You mentioned that the investors are evaluating HVAC companies differently, particularly in how they break apart their P&Ls and separate departments. What new norms of company valuations and how should HVAC businesses be preparing for this? Because like you said earlier, rule of thumb was, you had I don't know, 500 memberships per $1 million in revenue or something like that. And then that was how you were a valuable company. Whereas now, like the PE firms, they're getting smart to some of that. And it's like, okay, you can't valuation the company to that. So you're going to have to actually show your P&Ls. Explain what you mean by that.
Awesome. So there's two-part question. And the first one I think was already answered by Brian to some degree, because it's all about trust. So like that ability to, I guess, to mine additional revenue is that if you don't trust the person that you're doing business with, like, are you going to pay them more money to do stuff, to do more stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Probably not. Like,
right.
Oh, Brian, because you
deal
deal with
the
this
house
all
as
the
fast as
time
possible.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look, real quick on that, because timing's of the essence here. But Tersh, how many customers are you not seeing during maintenance visits nowadays? Most of them are not home anymore.
True.
So how do we convey value without the face-to-face interaction that everyone thinks they are getting with 2 visits a year or whatever they are? It could be 10 visits. It doesn't matter. It's about what are you doing to leave a meaningful impact on that customer interaction. So if you're not there, you better have something else. That video, like my car, I didn't have to be there, but man, I felt like I was, and it was very easy to peel off $300 for that, service that day, because my trust level is the highest it could be, But to expand on, where Ben was going with the investment side or private equity piece, the jig is up. They're not looking as much as how many maintenance per tech or per amount of revenue. It's now getting more into like slicing up that nickel. Okay, where else can we drive different KPIs to find even more value? If it's workflow on, if we could take a business that does new install and get callbacks to 0, what value is that?
Right.
When you look at MeasureQuick at $5 a month per system per year, like how do you not use that on every installation that you do so that you're not at risk of profit degradation?
Mm-hmm.
If I'm looking to buy a company, I can now set an expectation that I want to make sure that these new companies I'm looking at have 0 callback on install. What things are in place to guarantee that to happen?
With you mentioning that as a business, so those people who don't use MeasureQuick currently, can a business purchase a plan where their technicians are added to and taken off of the plan if they're released to other opportunities?
Well, so MeasureQuick has a in-app currency system. That's where the company buys the qubits. That's called qubits, and then you utilize those by redeeming them to unlock a project that then keeps that system unlocked for a full year. So those qubits stay with the company, and so techs can come and go. And but if a tech is on your account, then they now can be authorized to utilize those qubits on projects.
But it's tied to the asset. So to that condenser, that's where that is tied to. So gotcha. When you're baking that into an install package, I'm sure you can find an easy way to add $5 to a
so an install is definitely not a hard pill to swallow. I know we only have like 2 or 3 minutes left, but it's not a hard pill to swallow when it comes to installs. Whenever people are doing these $59 maintenance calls, adding $5 to that's where I think that I've seen people put up a bit of a fight for it. What do you say to those people?
I mean, a sales call in disguise at $59. I mean, I'll poke the bear. Again, it's perceived value, right, Tersh?
Right.
I mean, most people would pay to go to the house. That's what you're doing with $59.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Direct cost is. They're probably not the right people to be doing this. It's really about like when you have someone that's offering a value of $25 a month, and that's a very high value visit. or program or membership, it better have some type of electronic, diagnosis or transparency, because transparency is the whole key to this entire thing.
That's true. That's the biggest thing that sometimes is missing, because you still today in 2023, after all the undercover reporting, the other things that have happened where people have been accused of all sorts of things, and we've seen lawsuits and huge stuff going on within the last 5 years, people still literally they won't connect something, or they'll disconnect something and try to sell a new system, and then the next company comes and be like, well, you disconnected this and everything. It's transparency. We should all want that for our industry, at least the people that really care about the industry as a whole versus just their pocket.
Which I feel like most technicians, most businesses, I feel like they truly do care about the industry.
I feel like they do. I just feel like they don't they're like technology averse. Getting a CRM is oh my God, and it is a big deal. It is a big deal. But I also think it's a necessary evil to start getting into that stuff if you haven't, or get deeper into it. Like you guys said, it's not just getting a field service management software, even though in the last 5 years, that has grown exponentially as far as how many contractors have a tablet system and a invoicing system and all this stuff. It's just the first step of connecting other things that can help you really improve the trust, transparency, the customer communication. And I think we're so late to the game. Automotive's been
as an industry.
As an industry, 5 years ago, if you had a tablet and a FSM, you're like, holy shit, I'm way ahead of my competitors. Right. But it has caught up, at least to the point mostly where most people at least have some sort of
But now it's continuing to go. It's continuing to evolve. So now what we're on our soapboxes to say, hey, you're not done yet. And these are small ways, it's like eating the elephant one bite at a time, right? If you can do something that provides 10x value to the homeowner for a very low lift, that's the first thing I would be doing. Yeah. An FSM is not that way, right? But
that's a big bite. That's a big elephant bite.
That is a big bite. But so that's my point. It's just, it's there. It's possible. People do it every day. Some of the largest contractors in the country are doing it. So
yeah, MeasureQuick is one of those small bites that you can do consistently every single call you go on.
And that's going to become a lot easier bite to digest in 2 weeks. We got something big coming up that should really help with that bite.
So with that being said, right?
Just
you'll have to. You'll have to when the announcement comes out. You have to share it with our Facebook group.
Absolutely.
So that way people know.
Where can people find you though, other than the podcast?
MeasureQuick.com or just us. I don't know. You can find me on LinkedIn.
You too.
Yeah. I'm still planning on putting your email in the show notes. So
yeah,
fine with that.
Yep, same here.
I love talking to absolutely everyone, even if they're mad at me. I've done 10 years of customer service. I can handle anything.
Yeah. Let the hate mail begin.
Yep.
Right.
Bring it on.
Cool, guys. Brian, Ben, I really appreciate y'all coming in and hanging out with us, sharing this information. There's a lot that we didn't go into, and check out these 2 articles before you start consuming other stuff from these guys. But there's a ton here that we can talk about for several more hours. And but honestly, I really appreciate y'all coming and hanging out with us and sharing this information with us.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
We'll talk again next week. We'll see y'all later. Thank you for hanging out with us on the podcast. We'll see you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Service Business Mastery. Now that you are equipped with essential business advice from this impactful conversation, you are one step closer to becoming the successful owner of your dreams. If this episode has been helpful to your business journey, don't forget to subscribe to the show, leave a rating, and share it with other owners as well. Visit servicebusinessmastery.com to learn more.